check out Cajun Lights, your complete dog hunting outfitter. Tracking equipment, leashes, collars, dog supplies, and much, much more. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. And don't forget their outstanding lineup of lights. You can find it all at CajunLights.com. Elite nutrition products are the hottest thing on the market right now for dog and horse owners. And Houndsman XP is a dealer. You can find all their products on our website at houndsmanxp.com. Over the past 5 years, you've tuned into this podcast, and I don't take it lightly. We have built a mutual trust. And when I recommend a product, it's because I believe in it, I use it, and I'm given my seal of approval for that. I'm putting my name on that. And with Elite Nutrition products, I do trust it. I do use it. I've seen great results with their essential dogs, their pre and probiotics, their tick-borne disease treatment. It's all natural. It's a great alternative to pharmaceuticals when used appropriately. If you expect extreme performance, you need Elite Nutrition. Available from houndsmanxp.com.
It was, everything went wrong, but I got it in hand, and it wasn't like your typical trapping situation. And, you know, within the next 2 weeks, I had trapped like 5-6 other Merlins in good style, but that just willingness to just stop and try something and have it be successful. And it just, for whatever reason, that moment has always stuck out in my head. And it's not like anything crazy or captivating to most people, but for me, it was so important that I was finally successful in doing what I had been working on for 2 or 3 years, you know, preparing myself for. So, I don't know, that's one of my favorite stories.
And so we stuck it out, and I mean, she ended up getting caught, but it was a literal hour of standing in Albuquerque heat, sweating, hoping that this bird would just decide she was going to wake up. And she eventually did, and then we drove the 7 hours back with her on the fist because she wouldn't sit on a perch. And I mean, it's a super good plug for Cooper's Hawks, guys, but it was the most experience I would say I've had with anything unique when it comes to falconry.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this episode is another husband and wife falconry couple episode, and this is a pretty funny one. We had a lot of lighthearted conversation, had some fun at some mutual friends' expense, and talked about a lot of cool stuff. Of course, you know, Chris and his hoodmaking, Jessica's preference for Cooper's Hawks, and of course we had a lot of fun doing that. And you know, there's a lot of really good conversation in this, and a lot of good stuff covered. So I hope you enjoy it. This is another nice perspective on, you know, a husband and wife falconry couple, and I really hope you enjoy it. So we'll just go ahead and jump right in as always, and here we go. Well, I just want to start off by saying, you know, we talked on the phone on my drive down the other day, and as you know, like one of my major collecting and just overall fetishes in general is you know, hood collecting, and
right,
you know, just having as many hoods in the world as humanly possible. Tucker, I know you're going to listen to this. Your boy over here, man, he was talking some major smack on the way down. I'm not going to lie. I really think that there needs to be a little bit of a hood off that happens, and hoods need to be sent to me. I'll be the judge as to which ones are the best quality and best craftsmanship. And yeah, game on. Challenge has been made. If you don't accept, well, that's your loss, Tucker.
That's right. Man up, Tucker.
So yeah, I mean, I would be personally offended if I heard those things, but you know, whatever. It's just, anyway. So yeah, no, it's good to officially be around you both. You know, meet you guys. I mean, you said we already met. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't even remember meeting at NAFA. When was it? This past NAFA that we?
Man, I think so. You know, you meet a lot of people at NAFA meets, yeah. And I think I went and talked to you about maybe coming and doing just what you're doing now with the Oklahoma people, but It was kind of just an idea in my head, and someone else took it and ran with it. So
fair enough.
But yeah, I totally understand. I've never taken offense to someone not remembering me, because when I go to NAFA meets, I'm constantly, interacting with people that are like, hey, yeah, we met at this time, and I don't recall it. So,
yeah, it's there's two terrible things that just personality quirks that I have amongst the several that are terrible. But anyway, not remembering people's names is one of them. And usually I can remember instances, like meeting instances. I can remember faces really well and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I find that as the years keep going on and the more social situations I find myself in, it becomes harder and harder, to keep stuff straight. So yeah, I mean, thanks for not taking offense to that, but yeah, not only just yourself, Chris. It's been good seeing you again, but also nice to officially meet you for the first time, Jess, as well.
You too.
Yeah. So I mean, how long? Remind me again. Have you been married, both of you?
13 years.
13 years. Yeah.
13 years is. Well, these days, especially an accomplishment. So, kudos, hats off to you. Especially in the falconry world, being, has that kind of helped that you are both involved in this? I mean, were you both involved in falconry beforehand, or were you like a lot of couples in which, one starts after the marriage happens and all that?
He was the first.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been doing it since he was a kid, and I didn't start until 5 years after we got married.
Okay. Yeah. This is kind of one of those you finally threw in the towel?
More or less, yeah.
Join the dark side, so to speak.
Our son was born in 2013, so there wasn't much for me to do for the first several years. I mean, there wouldn't have been a way to do it. So it just made sense that once he got a little bit older that I could finally actually step in and do it. And I helped. I mean, I was a part of his falconry from the day we got married. But for me to do my own falconry didn't happen until my son was old enough that we could kind of space it out a little bit.
But you actually wanted to do it, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hunting has been something that's been in my family since I was a kid. I always wanted to hunt. I didn't realize it was a thing until I was in high school. And I found out that my dad had bought my brothers both lifetime hunting and fishing licenses, but he didn't get me one. And they were younger than me. And so I threw a fit, and he bought one for me and told me I had to hunt through high school. And I still hunt. I mean, deer hunting is a major passion. But I also like animals, and I like birds. And it made sense. It fit. There was no reason for me not to.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, kudos to you on that as well. I mean, I've been on record many times saying I had no hunting experience whatsoever before I got into this, and I didn't get into it until I was like 30, 31. So, I mean, was it kind of a similar situation for you, Chris? I mean, you've been in this since you were a kid, right?
Yes. I got licensed when I was 16. At the time, I didn't know I could do it any earlier in the state of Oklahoma, but, this is before the internet. So resources were pretty limited for me. But no, my passion for falconry started in the 3rd grade. And I can tell the story, I guess, if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was a young boy in grade school, in 3rd grade, we had this library kind of in the back of the class. And there was this, I don't even remember what the book was. It was an animal or a bird book of some sort, but it had a picture of a kestrel. And I would look at this kestrel every day. Like anytime we were allowed to read, I had this book open and I'm just staring at this little male kestrel. And I can't even remember if it was black and white or color or what it was, but I just knew it was a kestrel. And after months of this, I realized this bird had a leash on it. And I was like, man, this is someone's bird. It's like somebody owns this thing. And so our librarian was an avid birder and a wonderful woman, Ruth Ann Swartzendruber. And I took this book to her and I said, I want to know more about this. And she said, well, that's a falcon. So we got the encyclopedia out because you didn't have Google. And I'm reading through this verse on falconry, this section on falconry, or falcons. And the next chapter was falconry. And so from that moment on, I was completely ate up with the concept of falconry, but we didn't have any books. I ended up with a copy of Summer of the Falcon. It was kind of a predecessor to My Side of the Mountain for the author. but they weren't related topics. But this young woman had a kestrel that she had trained, and it was just fascinating to me. And so my whole early falconry was based around the idea of owning a kestrel. I wanted one so bad. But when I was about 14, we had moved to a new area not far from my hometown, but we started going to this new church. And I remember one of my friends, we're sitting in the back of the church, and we had this new pastor, and my buddy Brandon Waters, he's like, this pastor, he has a shotgun called a Falcon, and he hunts ducks with it. And my little brain's just turning. I'm like, there's no way. Like, maybe this guy's a falconer. So after church, I went and talked to him, and I was like, hey, by chance, are you a falconer? And he's like, yeah, I am. And he's from Ohio. He wasn't practicing in the state, but that was a big catalyst in my falconry, getting to meet him, getting some old Goshawks from him. And then when I turned 16, I didn't even have a driver's license. I begged my mom to take me up to the city, and which, by the way, for people out of state, Oklahomans refer to Oklahoma City as the city. But we came up here to the wildlife department and took my test, and that's how I got started. And but it was a part of my life from very early on.
Coincidentally, Ruth Ann Swords and Troopers, how I got into birds too.
Yeah.
Like we grew up, a 1.5 miles away from each other?
Yes.
So we didn't know each other. We're 7 years apart in age. But she was the reason that I got into birds. I got to see my first barn owls at a rehabber's with her. We used to go out and see all the birds that nobody else sees. And it was a natural transition for me. But it's just interesting. We both got the same start from her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really coincidental. But, it is strange too. You're, I think you're one of a couple of couples. That's weird wording, but that I've talked to that has kind of gotten together, like not known each other, like lived super close to each other, not known each other during that whole time, but then ended up like together later in life.
Weird.
It is kind of weird. It's funny how things work sometimes, and that adds to the kind of the coincidental irony, whatever you want to however you want to put it, that you both also kind of discovered the stuff from the same person too. That's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, well, and so whenever you finally were able to start getting into this world, what age were you then approximately whenever you were actually really start able to be, hawking regularly and all that kind of stuff?
Pretty much the year I got licensed, when I was 16. Joe Wood was our pastor. He was a falconer from Ohio. I think he lives in Kentucky now. He had shown me how to build some traps, and he'd go out with me and drive around looking for red tails. And I had a lot of trouble that first year, and I was on my own a lot. I had a little, 1990 Nissan, standard transmission, just fun to drive around. But I just put mile after mile on looking for red tails, and it was probably around December when I trapped my first one on a pigeon harness of all things. And I just remember I was almost afraid of that bird. It was so intimidating to finally have this thing I desired for all these years. I finally had it in hand, and mostly hunted cottontails. Didn't have a lot of success that first year. I ultimately lost that bird. But my second season, I had met Oscar Pack. And Oscar passed away a few years ago. He was a dear friend of mine. But Oscar loved trapping. He was a very ingenuitive, creative guy. He invented the O-rig that people used on kites. I'm sure you've heard about that. Mm-hmm. But he took me under his wing, took me out trapping, and got me a female red tail. And that was what really spawned my love for female red tails for years after the fact. But I think that months of struggling that I had trapping that first bird and getting one in hand was what really spawned my love for trapping. And trapping has been as big a part of my falconry as my falconry has. I love building traps, testing them, driving into new areas to experience new ways of obtaining birds. And so that's a big passion for me, and I really thank Oscar for that.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, there's several guys that I know also that just love trapping, if as much, if not more, in some ways than actual falconry. Mm-hmm. The actual hunting aspect of it and everything too. And yeah, I mean, whether it's roadside trapping, ridge trapping, in some cases even, beach trapping. It all has its place in the fun and the whole scheme of these things.
It does.
This thing for sure. But yeah, so I mean, as far as what you're doing now, I mean, has you both kind of being involved in this together affected your choice in what you're flying? Obviously you have to have the right quarry, the right bird, but I mean, do you guys kind of piggyback off each other in any way as far as what you guys like to fly and what quarry you like to fly said, species on at all? Do you guys affect each other's decisions in that way, or?
We're learning. When it first started, it was all about what we wanted to do, and it's hard to manage. So we've kind of decided that what works is for me to fly an early season bird because I prefer stuff like that. I like to fly passage coops. I have a kestrel right now. So early season works better for me, and he prefers the winter season. So we've kind of learned that if we can take turns, it works a little better.
Fair enough.
Yeah, my job is kind of limiting as far as time that I have available. I don't get off work till 5:30 in the wintertime. And there's plenty of days when I call Jess and I'm like, hey, weigh my Merlin. If he's near flight weight, get him ready, beep him up, and just I'll meet you in the field. And then, I come pulling in 30 minutes before dark, and I just see my wife out in the middle of this field with some Merlin flying over. And I'm like, how cool is that I get to do that? So there's ups and downs to having, a couple like us. We've got a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, and there's a lot of nuance that comes with navigating the school schedules. I mean, two very different work schedules. We've got a lot that opposes us when it comes to falconry, but we both love it enough to push forward. And so, like she said, we're figuring it out. But I think once our kids are out of the house, it'll change a lot. I was a little resentful at first because I felt like I was losing a part of me that had been my whole life. It was like the thing that drove me. And then when suddenly Jess is there and present, and now I'm devoting time and resources to that, by the time I would get to my part of the season, I was wore out. And so we've kind of struck this balance now where, we're both involved heavily with each other's falconry, but we kind of split it up where she gets the early, I get the late.
Well, and that's very interesting to hear. And that's the reason why I always it's an obvious course of, where to take, the topics of these conversations and stuff, especially with couples in falconry. But that's why I like kind of going down this train of conversation, because it seems like every couple has to kind of navigate their own way. And it seems like it would be, it's common sense. Well, of course you kind of have to figure, but every couple kind of has their different little nuance, it seems, how they might put their own little stamp or twist on how it works for their life. And it seems like it would be an obvious, well, of course, but, at the same time, it's not as obvious, I think, as what, there's plenty of couples too that it just doesn't work. I think, there's, I
can imagine.
Yeah.
She has a big thing for passage Cooper's hawks, Tiercel's specifically, but I could care less about them, really. Like, it's not my thing at all. But I had to learn so much about passage Cooper's hawks so I could be involved and learn with her and help out. And they're kind of fun, but it's not my cup of tea. I think it takes a special person to mess with passage accipiters in general. And that's just never been me. But now I've had the opportunity to be involved with those, with a few of them, and I might have never got that chance, not for her. So it's got perks.
Well, I'm sure that it was an interesting learning experience, for you, finding out that you probably married a closet psychopath and or
exactly.
serial killer that loves these.
It's hard
passages.
to sleep at night.
Yeah.
They're not that bad, guys. They can be really endearing.
It can be.
Okay.
You stick with that. Oh man.
Well, and I guess then, okay. So how did you come to love that particular, not just species and passage, but also sex of that particular?
I've tried to figure that out. When I first was around falconry things with him, we went to an AFA meet in Elk City.
Yeah.
Was that 2017?
2016.
And there was a goshawk, and I was like, that's the bird. Like that's it. I don't know why. I still don't know why. I will probably eventually fly one. But then I went and flew a red tail, and it was a horrible first season. The rabbits died off like 2 months in, and there was just no point in flying him anymore. So I cut him loose, and then I went down to a kestrel, and I realized that I'm not a big bird person. I mean, like a big bird, large size. It just doesn't work for me. I don't enjoy it as much. I'm little. I'm not strong. Like, it wears me out to carry a red tail around a field for an hour and a half. So it was natural that we went smaller. And you've got the car hawking, which is borderline illegal if you're looking at it the right way. And he doesn't enjoy the risk. And it wasn't fun for him because we're just driving around town. So we decided we needed a field hawk. So the next step up is a Cooper's hawk or a Sharpie. And we don't have Sharpies here in the nesting season. So Cooper's hawk was easier. So we actually came up here to this house and had Rob trap me one out of a family group. And I don't know why. It was just, they make more sense to me. They're easier to read. They're more fun. They're very straightforward. And they do have some really bad habits and some weird quirks. But if you can read them right and you can pay attention to it, I feel like they're more simple than some of the other birds. And I did try to get a female once and work with her and absolutely hated her. She just was borderline idiotic. So the males they were more relaxed and easier to figure out. I don't know. Males just were easier.
She does well with them.
It is funny that you mentioned that because of the few passage coops that I've had, my short dealings with and ended up turning back loose. The two females especially that I had for a brief time, they did seem to be a much bigger pain and even quirkier to deal with. We hit a point to where we were trying to get jumps and she couldn't even see that the glove was there. Like, she would walk across the edge of a chair and try to look around me for somewhere to go. The lure was fine. We just hit a roadblock on the glove work, and which you don't necessarily have to have, but it would have been nice, especially coming up off of a lure or off of a missed slip. But we couldn't get past it. We tried everything we could think of, and she just was like, no, I don't need to come to that at all.
There's definitely something to say for the age you take a Cooper's hawk at, in my opinion. And
sooner the better. And
that tends to be the consensus. But I've seen people do well with late trap birds. We had the pleasure of going down to New Mexico with Brian Millsap and trapping in those family groups. And that was a really interesting experience. But those are very early, mentally young birds. They just don't have anything to base anything off of. And she's had a family group bird and then a true passage bird that I trapped in the yard in a bow net about mid-September. So she's had a little bit of the variety, but, females tend to be more common in falconry from what I've seen. I don't see many people dealing with the tiercels that much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then I think the main reason why is because people are not necessarily shooting to hunt like other birds with them. They're wanting to hunt like cottontails and stuff, so I think that, the people are kind of have more of a tendency to gravitate towards the females for that reason and stuff. But I mean, the truth be told, the males, like a tiercel would probably be a lot more practical just because the quarry is just a lot more abundant, a lot easier to come across too. But I don't know. I mean, would you agree with that, Jess?
Oh, well, it comes and goes. I mean, our rabbit populations pick back up. But past that, I mean, what would we hunt with a female? Ducks? Eventually?
Yeah, if you got a good sized one, yeah. We don't have a lot of quail or pheasant. We don't have any pheasant where I'm at. We're very limited on our game availability. To be honest, if we were smart falconers, we would hawk ducks with long wings. I mean, that's what we have the most of. And for whatever reason, it's just never appealed to me. I just don't, it's not my thing. I think it will be, especially when I retire. I think that's what I'll do forever. But right now, it's just not that appealing. And so we keep trying to find ways to take advantage of what we do have. And, you know, I hawked squirrels for years when I was starting out, and I slowly but surely lost all of my good fields to deer hunters, to agriculture, to houses. And it got to the point where the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, essentially. And so I transitioned to rabbits, and we have like a few jacks in our area, but like the locals name them. Like they're so uncommon, that's their jack, you know, and they would be so mad if you went off and hawked that jack. And so it was just cottontails. And I may speak for myself here, but cottontails just get boring.
I'm right there with you.
I just got to the point where I was like, they're fun to eat. And I love watching a hawk stoop into the brush. And I had taken a Passage Harris hawk, a tiercel, down in Texas in 2014. And by his like third season, it was no challenge. I mean, you were coming home with the rabbits that you flushed. And so I wanted something new. And with our rabbit population kind of dwindling anyway, and not having gray squirrels and not having much access to fox squirrels, I said, well, I've got a lot of small birds around here. So what do we do? And I switched to Merlins. She started flying Cooper's hawks.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Yeah. And you know, all the power to you if you've managed to find your own little methodology of success, you know, with that particular species. I mean, there are some people obviously that I know that do really well with them. I don't want to necessarily call them special or unique or, you know, whatever, but I think that ultimately I do think there is something to be said for the people that do figure out kind of how to navigate that particular species usually do have the time and the capability to, you know, get them the amount of hunting and meet the requirements specifically that particular species needs to really, you know, continue to operate efficiently. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and I have more time than he does. My job takes me to 2:30. And then I go pick up the kids and we go home. So I'm home a good 2 hours before he is. And so I can put more time into some of this than he can. His is very much off work. Let's go to the field. We're done.
Yeah. And I imagine if you have a specific schedule, which, you know, where every single day you can go out at a specific time and give that bird, you know, a good half hour to an hour at least of hunting time. So, it, you know, or more, you know, depending on, you know, the time of the year and the amount of daylight you have left. That tends to be usually the best recipe from the people that I've talked to that have a lot of success with that particular
species. They have to get out
so,
every day.
Yeah. And if you don't, they seem to kind of want to shut down a little bit. They won't even, and they just kind of revert back to kind of being crazier.
Yeah, they pout.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing about Cooper's hawks. The first time I saw it, I was like, I don't know what we're doing wrong. But like this bird had missed a couple slips, and then it's just like sitting there physically pouting. Like you can tell, like you could walk up to him with a garnish glove and they're not doing anything until they decide they want to. They're over whatever personal feelings got hurt, and then they're back in the game. And it was the hardest thing for me to accept. I'm like, your birds are just weird, Jess. Like, why do you like this? But then when they turn it back on, you know, it's fine. But yeah, like if they, you know, miss or if they have an issue with a particular quarry, like their ability to just not see something for the rest of their life, like they can just decide, I don't like this anymore. It doesn't exist. And it's kind of fascinating, but it's just not something I enjoy working around. And she finds that challenge entertaining and enjoyable and rewarding. So power to them. All those Cooper's hawk people out there, good for you. I'm not one of you.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are people in the world that love to self-flagellate and you know, do all kinds of
Self-harm.
We self-harm whether it's like anything from whipping themselves to, nailing certain body parts to step stools and whatever. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just like there's all kinds of people that love all kinds of weird stuff. So, hey, all the power to you. I mean, it's not for me either. I will say, though, that is one species that I do feel like at some point in my life I do need to have some degree of success with, just so I can say that I've kind of completed the trifecta, so to speak, or at least having that degree of satisfaction. However, while I do have many days where I do kind of hate myself a little bit, I haven't quite reached that level yet of just,
There's a lot of steps before a passage Cooper's Hawk.
Correct.
Right. I didn't take them.
You just went straight to it.
I went red tail kestrel Cooper's Hawk.
Yeah.
Well, and the main reason why I tried a Cooper's in the first place was because the first kestrel I flew, I almost got eaten by a Cooper's Hawk right in front of me, like caught and managed to scare it off, dropped it, whatever. And I was just like, well, I don't want to have to worry about this again. So if you can't beat them, join them, and that's why I tried my first Cooper's Hawk essentially, but, whatever, But yeah, it is weird seeing the difference in personality between like species like that and say like, even your smaller falcons, like your Merlins and stuff. I mean, what's your favorite part about flying a Merlin?
At first, it was just obtaining one. When I decided to, when I decided to shift gears and go for the micro falconry a little bit more, and just kind of see if that worked for me, Merlin seemed like the obvious choice. And so I start talking to people, doing research, buying books, and I start gathering all this equipment, and I bought a bunch of hoods. And as I got all this stuff amassed in a pile, I thought, well, Bradshaw lived up there in the Panhandle and he caught him up there, so I got to go up there. And now I'd trapped a lot in the Panhandle and I'd see Merlins on occasion. And as far as I was concerned, these were an oddity and rare in the state of Oklahoma. And a lot of people, I think, still have that opinion. But once I got up there and broke through that ice and learned what to look for and where to look for them, I started having immediate success and repeated success. And as I learned to obtain the birds, I was just enamored with how biddable they are. I was really bad about just breaking the telemetry out every time. I wouldn't let them get away from me at first. Like I was just petrified. I was going to lose them. I was going to do something wrong. I was going to kill this bird because it was so magical. Like it was so hard initially for me to obtain one that now that I've got it in hand, I just can't risk losing it. And so I didn't press very hard with those first couple. But as I learned to kind of loosen those reins and let them be what they are, and they're all individuals, I started to see the true nature of the Merlin come out. And like I said, I was always just digging telemetry out. I was like, oh my gosh, I lost sight of it. It's chasing the dove and I can't see it. And what I learned over time, every time I would get the telemetry out and start chasing a bird, I would end up right where I started. And these birds just bond with falconers so well. Like once they figure out that routine and that partnership, they're just right there with you. And it's probably the most enjoyable falconry that I have experienced so far. And there's a lot I have not done. This is my 28th year, and I've only about four or 5 years now been dabbling with these Merlins, and I don't know much yet. I mean, there's so many guys out there that are infinitely better Merlin falconers than I am. I'm just learning the ropes. But it's really that partnership that I feel. I mean, if a red tail follows you around the field, Harris Hawk, Harris Hawks are basically dogs with feathers. I mean, they pick up on routines and patterns and bond with their falconers, but there's something very unique about the way a Merlin does it. And I think it's because they are so able to master the sky. I mean, these birds have a motor that doesn't stop, and they can just go anywhere and everywhere they want and chase whatever they want, but they always end up right back there working with you. And I love that.
And so what are you mainly hawking with them then? Starlings or?
I have done a little bit of the starling stuff. We don't get what the guys up there in Utah and some of those northern states see. I mean, flocks. we have those, often not in the most hawkable situations. For me, a lot of private land ownership where we're at. So I try really hard not to trespass, but there are a lot of large tracts that people that I know own and I can get access to, but mostly just field hawk and sparrows. My last jack waited on pretty well, and that was a big change for me versus the females that I'd mostly hunted from perches. And it was more self-hunting than anything. I'd take them out in the field, let them go, and I'd walk around and try to flush stuff. But what I found was that if you can't see behind yourself, you can't keep up with a merlin. You've got to have eyes in the back of your head. And I fly them with telemetry, but no bells or anything like that. So you just got to be constantly mindful of where they are. And I found that once I just kind of let go of trying to be necessary in the field and just enjoy watching the merlins fly, they hunt a lot on their own, and they always come back. It's like there's something about those fields that they're drawn to once they've flown them a few times. And so I would just let them go and just watch, and just it's really cool to see how they select their slips. Like, you'll have birds flying everywhere, and these merlins are just sitting there like casually, and then some dove flies through, hundreds of yards away and hundreds of feet off the ground, and they're like, that's the one. And you can tell when they lock in. And most of my flights I have to watch with binoculars. It rarely happens real close to me, but
and that can be some of the most frustrating stuff to deal with and see. I mean, it doesn't matter if what kind of slip that you're trying to engineer or coordinate. It seems like they'll always bypass what seems to be the easiest bird they could possibly go and snatch. And it doesn't matter the species either. It doesn't matter if it's, say, like a passage coop or Sharpie, a merlin, or a kestrel. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They'll always bypass what is seemingly the easiest bird to go another several bazillion yards past and go in and grab whatever else it's fixated on. And it would be kind of, and I think I was actually even talking to Rob about this. It's just like, it would be interesting to be able to have a way to get into these birds' brains and understand and be able to tell what they're thinking and what their rationale is. Just kind of be in their head long enough to know, like, why are you doing that?
I think it's part of the draw of falconry.
Yeah,
is trying to put ourselves in the mindset of that bird.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would, whatever. And I think that's going to be part of the continual, heroin dose for all of us on that, for sure. But so, I mean, you primarily just fly jacks then, or have you flown?
No, I've only flown one jack and a few females. The first couple of years I was out doing this, I just wasn't finding jacks. Everything I found was a female, mostly Richardsons. And as time has gone on, sorry, I've been fighting some allergies, but as time has gone on, I've learned more where to look for them, and now I'm finding a lot more variety. Finding a pretty even mix of the two sexes. And, I'm still figuring out, every one of them's different in your approach to. They love to play the wind, and I've had setups with like a half-eye where I'm like, this is perfect. I've got it. Everything's lined up. The stars finally aligned. And then the bird comes in from the total wrong direction. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about where the wind was blowing. The way they use cover, very accipitrine use of cover from time to time, depending on what kind of habitat you're in. And so just being more successful at obtaining the birds when I find them has led me to have more opportunity to try new things. I really want to go up to like the Northwest, and I know it's stupid because color doesn't matter, but I want to fly a black merlin so bad. I've talked to a few guys up there, and I'm like, well, one of these days I'm going to come up. Maybe, trap one of those family group birds like you see people doing earlier in the season. I'm not real drawn to the imprints, but I think, as someone who did just routine dirt hawking my whole life, having opened up this door now, I've got years of potential opportunities and new things to try, and, more different prey species to focus on, different hawking techniques, training styles. And so merlins just kind of opened that up for me. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a species that I've tried briefly, and, unfortunately didn't end up so well, but it's on the bucket list also. I just, right now, and I know for me personally, it's kind of like path of least resistance as far as, I mean, right now what's easiest for me is just, red tails and squirrels and whatever. And once again, there's always just that paranoia of going to all these different lengths to go and trap a Merlin, right? And you come home with one and then you turn around and it just gets eaten by a Cooper's hawk, in like the next month or whatever. And there's always that lingering thought in the back of my mind too and stuff. But I'm assuming you don't really have to worry too much about that here quite as much.
Well, in all the years that I have flown birds, I had never lost one to predation. I've had a lot of encounters with owls, mostly with my birds chasing owls. So, I was aware that it happened to other people, but her first Cooper's hawk got killed by a red tail. And I was like, I don't even know how to help you process this because I've never seen it before. Like it was I had to go chase 3 red tails across the field and get them to drop her bird. And of course she can't see where I'm at. And she's probably pretty aware that this is how this is unfolded. Like the evidence was pointing toward it. And I was 100%, I knew what had happened. I saw it. I saw the birds come up out of the ditch. I saw them carrying her bird, and I just didn't really have the heart to elaborate. And so I just took off. And when I got about, I got about a quarter mile across this field, and they were haggling over it on a fence post. And I snuck up a weed line and kind of jumped out and yelling, and they dropped him and took off. And I had to walk back to my pickup and hand this bird to my wife. I'm like that. I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I just never experienced it. And with all the Merlins that I've flown, the other Merlins coming in and messing with them has been the only real issue that I've had. So I feel pretty lucky in that regard. But we, aside from a few local red tails and a passing Cooper's hawk, like right where we're at, where we hawk, we don't just have an abundance of raptors that we're dealing with. And I know other people do. There's plenty of people that have to worry a lot more. Like when we go fly a kestrel in town on starlings, we have to worry about that. But out where we live, it's not such a big deal.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the red tail because like whenever I've been out trapping with Bradshaw before and stuff out in Washington and I've talked to several other falconers that fly Merlins on a regular basis, especially like in the western part of the U.S. and that they always all say the same thing. Like they don't worry about Cooper's hawks. They worry about red tails. And so it's interesting that you basically kind of, granted, different species, but same concept. I mean, you could easily just have had the same experience yourself, with your Merlin, so. But so I mean, Jess, there's never been any interest for you to kind of get into that realm,
Merlins?
And be normal.
To be normal. Well, to be honest, the first Merlin we worked with, I think I ended up working with it more than he did. We kind of tackled it together, and I enjoyed her, but we were so scared we were going to do something wrong that I think we held her back. I think we caught one bird out in the field, and she went and ate it in a tree, and we called her down like at dark, and finally walked home with her, and we were like, okay, well, if that's what this is about, we've messed something up, because it was not fun that evening.
It was nerve-wracking. We were just so inexperienced with them, and there's some good resources out there for Merlins now, and I'd read them, but I'm not the kind of guy that can go read a book and really gain much. I've got these little things cataloged in my head, and now I'm waiting to experience them before they sink in. And it really felt like we had something special in our hands when we caught that first Merlin. Like it was hard. It took forever to get it all. It took us a couple years of piecing things together before we were successful in obtaining one. And I think we were just nervous. So we definitely held that bird back.
But I enjoyed her. I mean, she was a sweetheart, and I enjoy being around his Merlins. I don't want to go watch a bird hunt by itself. It's not as fun for me. And I think that's the difference in our draw. He likes the natural wild part of what a bird is. He wants to go be a part of that bird out there doing its thing. I'm a woman. I'm an animal lover. I like the bond. I like to be with my bird. I like to enjoy things at face level with her. And he's perfectly happy to go stand out in the field and watch his Merlin chase a dove 2 miles away and then hope she comes back if she didn't catch it.
You're an accipiter person, and it seems like every accipiter person that I know is the exact same way. They don't have any patience for watching other things unfold without them being directly involved. There's like this need for them to have everything happen right in front of them, and they have to be directly involved, and it has to happen straight from them.
Yeah.
It's like this weird commonality, that especially your Goshawk guys. And, I said, having been around them for literally my whole falconry existence, there's always a common denominator, and it's so easy to tell, like whenever you're out with them in the field. And there's nothing wrong with that by any stretch. That's the allure. That's why they love flying Goshawks, for example, is they love seeing it launch off their hand and love seeing it all happen right in front of them. And nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just curious. And then that's why I was kind of wondering in my mind, like how if there's ever been any interest from your end on that side of things to try something different, like a Merlin or something, because usually your accipiter folks, they don't really want to deviate from that ever again once they get like hooked into that.
No, I probably won't. I'm flying the Kestrel now, but it's more out of convenience than anything. I didn't necessarily want to do another coop this year. I'd really like to go pull a Sharpie at some point and have that experience, but that wasn't in the cards this year either. So here I am with a Kestrel, and she's great, but I don't like her the way that I would a Cooper's Hawk. And I think eventually it will end up being Goshawks. I would love to have a little Tierschel. I think it would be a blast, but it's just, that's going to be like an after the kids thing. Like when I have more time to completely devote to that and I don't have anything else to worry about, I think that will be a thing.
I think if you can pull off a Passage coop now, you could probably pull off a Goshawk now if you wanted to. Yeah. Just saying.
Maybe. There's just a little, I have only been doing this for 8 years now. This will be my 8th season. Is that what we decided? I don't know. I don't feel like I'm qualified for a Goss yet. Like I got to earn a few more stripes before I'm willing to throw my hat into that ring.
She's romanticizing them.
Probably.
You're definitely romanticizing them 100%. I will second your husband's sentiment in that regard. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here downplaying the commitment that a Goshawk needs or anything like that. But having now seen multiple guys over the years pull it off with a lot less time than what you have, I'm just saying right now, if you really wanted to, you could. I'm trying to talk you into it a little bit.
I'm a big self-doubter.
Well, another funny thing about having two Falconers in a household is if there's something I'm like kind of curious about, but I don't want to do myself, I try to like kind of encourage her subliminally. Like I'm always doing these, like Keith Hicks, Heartland Goshawks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every time he posts a picture of his baby Goshawks, I'm like, Jess, look, all you got to do is make a phone call.
Yeah.
Like, what's a drive out there? That's nothing.
Well, yeah, and you could swing by and say hi on your way because I'm not too awful far from him.
So. It'll happen. One of these days he's going to push me far enough. But we have a senior this year. We've got a lot of things going on, so not this year.
Well, I'm in the same boat with y'all. Mine's 17, also getting ready to start his senior year. So I feel you. It's. I don't. Do you not think that you might rather go the parent reared route though, instead of the imprint route?
I don't know. We've talked about it. After we went out to Albuquerque and trapped family birds with Brian Millsap, we came back talking about the idea of trying to trap a family bird goss. But it was one of those things, like we put a pin in it, we'll come back to it.
Right. So
I'm not opposed. I don't know enough about it to really say what I think is the best route to take or which way I want to go.
And to be 100% honest, I think it really just all depends on what you personally like. If you're, obviously if you're an imprint type of person, you love imprinting birds, and imprinting is going to be the way to go for you. That's just kind of what I've noticed anyway. But there is kind of a weird common denominator too, and all the folks that I've talked to, and know as well. Even your most experienced, like Goshawk guys, all to a T, say that, you know, for your first one, it's hard to beat like a parent reared finish, for example. You know, and so I would tend to listen a little bit to, you know, more of the super experienced folks and things like that on that end of things. But I think ultimately, if you have the time, you'll work it out regardless of what you decide to go with. So sounds like you'd be fine.
Well, we'll see one day.
We're very geographically isolated where we're at. We're about an hour west of here, and there's a guy an hour south of me, a guy an hour north of me, and other than a few apprentices I've had over the years, most of which in our area have kind of fallen out for the time being just because of the low rabbit population, and they don't have a desire to chase anything else, that we're just so alone. And I think things like, you know, goshawks and some of the more intricate birds are so much, maybe it's just easier on us mentally because we have someone nearby that can help us with that. And we don't have that. Like Everyone's just so far. And granted, we've got technology. We can, you can talk to people on the phone, but if you got a buddy down the road that's good at goshawks, that'd be pretty cool to have. And we're just kind of out there doing our thing. We're very active in our clubs, state and national clubs, and we try to get to everything we can and be a part of it and volunteer. But at the end of the day, our falconry is kind of our own. We're just kind of out there.
And yeah, I mean, there's no substitute for having someone just across town or whatever that you can make a simple phone call to. Hey, you know, I need another set of eyes that has never seen whatever. Like, I just want to make sure I'm not reading this wrong, so on and so forth. I totally get it. You know, it's you know, and accipiters in general, I will die on the hill of saying, just like a lot of folks, that they take another level of being able to perceive.
Yeah.
And if you read them the wrong way, there's really no room for error with them. If you read something the wrong way or whatever, they will go downhill quick on you also, and you're not going to recover from it either. So yeah,
but I'm still trying to figure out if she's just lucky or
that's
just naturally
thing too.
Inclined. I
haven't flown that many of them, but I haven't had very many bad experiences with them. Knock on wood.
How many is not many?
What have I worked
3.
with? 3? Mm-hmm. I've actually fully trained and taken 3 out. I worked with one other, but we don't need to talk about her.
So the ones that you've been successful with, though, have been males.
Yeah.
Okay. And 3 really isn't nothing. I mean, if you've had success and done well with 3 so far, I mean, yeah, it's not 300 or 30 or whatever, you know, but at the same time, generally speaking, if you've gotten to a handful-ish almost or whatever, and you've done okay, that's not usually luck at that point. We'll just put it that way.
There you go.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, that's just my perception, and there's probably going to be other people listening to this that's probably going to be like, ooh. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, 1 or 2,
yeah.
But, you know, once you start, you know, getting into, you know, more than that, I think that there's usually, you can say then that you've done okay.
When you get to 5, you got to write a book. Right.
Right. I think that's one of the things holding me back on the goshawk thing too, is that I haven't had a bad experience yet, and I'd rather have it with something like a coop than mess up a goshawk.
That doesn't cost you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. That's a big one too. We're well off, but not that well off. Yeah. Not going to throw $1,000 down the drain.
I waste all of our money trapping in the fall. Put it in gas and hotels.
Well, quit being so selfish.
I know, right? If you just wanted to trap merlins with me and fly them, we'd be fine.
Or you can keep being selfish and keep making more of these little thingies here, and you know, just keep paying for. You know, if you just keep making more of these precious little hoods, you know, more and more of them, and pay for her goshawk. Then
I've always loved making my own equipment. Like, I've never bought. I mean, other than like braided stuff, I don't buy basic equipment. I mean, I'm not making gloves or game bags or anything like that, but the hoods was like, it's a very practical thing that is not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. Like it's manageable. I mean, I don't even know what equipment I'd have to buy to build a proper, rose hawking game bag. And I don't want to learn that, but there was just this obstacle that I had in my way. It was mostly just, doubts in my own abilities. But when I got with Tucker and he showed me the fundamentals of how that works, it just made sense. But I'm also the kind of guy that if I ever try to monetize that, I'll quit doing it immediately. It takes all the joy and passion out of a hobby like that to try. It's like when I'm sitting there picking out a color or a pattern scheme or something, if it's mine, it's part of the process. But when someone else is like, man, you know what I want? I'm like, I don't even care. Like, I don't want to know. It just takes that fun out of it. And that was it. I think, selling one here and there when I make it and I'm just not real interested in keeping it, it kind of helps fund the hobby. And that's good. I don't mind that, but I don't think you're ever going to see Chris Kimble mass produced hoods. Probably not going to happen.
All right, so what you're saying is I should never use this one then. This one's just going to be definitely one that just stays in my little falconry hood cabinet, and I just treasure it forever.
You are like a lot of people. When I worked for Danny Ertzgaard when I was in my youth, up there breeding falcons with him, he had this impressive collection of hoods, and I mean, he could tell you where he got every one of them, and who made it. And I am a use a hood kind of guy. Tucker gives me a lot of crap for that. He's like, oh, you don't use that, man. That's one of a kind. And I'm like, well, what good is it if I don't use it? I donate it to the archives if I didn't want to use it. And now, granted, I've got like an old Lou Voice, and there's another one I have that's kind of hard to come by. And I wouldn't use those necessarily, but they're very old. They're used, but they're like collectible now. But now I don't begrudge people who collect hoods. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. But think of the financial burden of a large hood collection. And now you get nothing but visual pleasure out of that.
You can't begrudge people. Have you seen your hood collection?
Well, I know, but it's stupid. I bet I've got
boxes,
150 of those things laying around. It's the weirdest thing. I cannot stop buying hoods and making them. And my hope is that I get to use most of them one day. And I give them away constantly. I love giving hoods to people. Like, that's fun for me. Because now you that might be the thing that stands between you and a Merlin one day, is your ability to get a good hood. And now you've got one.
What I found is you can't ever have enough of them.
You can't.
Like, so the thing, one of the things that's pissed me off most here in recent years, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago. I trapped another tweener redtail that I flew. Mm-hmm. I have at least a half a dozen red-tailed hoods, right?
Yep.
Not a single damn one fit that bird.
Yep.
It pissed me off so bad. I was just like, really? I'm going to have to buy more red-tailed hoods. Really? I mean, come on. You know, so what I found is even if it's the same block size, mm-hmm. whatever the case is, it's like they're still not going to fit the same.
Some birds aren't meant to be hooded.
Yeah, and it's just like it's the weirdest damn thing. So I have to have all of the hoods, You
do. And, I thought, well, once I learn how to make these and I'm proficient enough to make a serviceable hood, I no longer have to mess with that. So like I get one of those tweeners, or, all the hood makers are booked out for a month, during the heat of the season, and I can just make one myself now. And one of the birds she trapped, I was just like on my 9th hood, and I'm like, I suck at this. Like, I cannot make a hood to fit this bird. So it's not all it's cracked up to be, even for the hood makers. Now I say that as an inexperienced, I mean, call myself a hood maker. I dabble in things like this, but I think there's a struggle for everybody in that regard. There's going to be those birds that are hard to fit, and I wish it was easier, but it's not for me.
Well, and so I'll tell you the same thing. And it's funny because I'm looking at this hood that you are, once again, thank you for this very much. This nicely made hood, I'm looking at it, and it's so funny because I remember the first time I saw one of Tucker's hoods, and I paid him, and I meant this, completely as a compliment. And I was just like, man, whenever I see your hoods, the person I think of first and foremost, because I have several of his hoods also, is Bill Barber. Like the way, and so like I can tell that Tucker kind of in a way showed you, some of the way you do stuff. Because I mean, like you guys' hoods look very similar, and
his are nicer.
You're not supposed to say that on.
There's still a challenge out there on the table, but no, Tucker is a phenomenal craftsman. He's just so creative. Like I'll go up there and visit him, and we do other stuff. We go herping, we go fishing, and just enjoy each other's company. Watch The Office nonstop, but we'll sit down at the hood making bench, and I'm like, all right, see if you can pull this off. And he just does it. Like he did a Harry Potter themed one for Jess, for a Cooper's Hawk. I don't even know what all. It's so unreal to see someone's potential just come out in their work. And I love witnessing that and seeing people that are truly good, no matter what it is. I love seeing people's strengths brought to the surface. And he's definitely a hood maker at heart.
Yeah, it's just too bad that he has to have the occasional burnout like everybody eventually gets.
That's what I'm telling. That's why I don't do custom orders.
Yeah,
I don't want the burnout. I stop well enough on my own when things get in my way. I don't need someone else creating that hurdle for me. So I'll help friends out, and then other than that, it's going to be random gifts like you just got.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, this is fantastic, and once again, like I said, I told him, I was just like, man, and he took it for what it was meant to be, of course, as a big con, because I'm a big fan of Bill's hoods and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you guys' qualities is very comparable. And so, I mean, kudos to you for that. This is one realm. I'm never going to try this, so this is another convenient excuse for me to be able to support other falconers in their endeavors. And I mean, to be 100% honest, I'm even at a point now where, I can still whip up my own anklets and stuff like that, but I would much rather buy even nicer, like I said, the braided jesses, anklets, things like that from other equipment makers, just because, I'm so busy doing other stuff these days. I'll openly admit that sometimes it's nice being able to be lazy and support other falconers in their business endeavors.
Sure. And I just want to go on record, while I appreciate your compliment, I am not as good as Bill Barber. I want to make sure Bill hears that. Bill has helped me. He's always willing to offer advice. And hood makers can be kind of secretive. They're
very much so.
It's like they've worked hard to develop the craft that they have. And I'm very open and share and free with information. Like I want to see people succeed, and I want to see our sport improve and grow. But I totally understand why it's hard to just randomly give up years of experience. And, to the casual observer, maybe that hood might look similar to Bill's, but it is just a hood. So they're all going to look somewhat similar. But if you've built hoods and you get into the minutia of hood making, Bill's are way better than mine.
Well, and that just kind of comes with the whole, I mean, he's also got a bazillion.
He does, yes.
Freaking years on you too.
I just don't like compliments.
Yeah, well, we're the episode that recorded earlier with Mr. Rainey. The whole last part of that episode is us basically talking about how we have trouble accepting compliments and people being complimentary of anything that we do.
Yeah.
So not only are we amazingly bald together, we have that personality trait that is similar as well. So yes, we're very, it's nice knowing that meeting other people that have weirdly similar personality quirks in that way. So that's cool. Yeah. Have you ever thought about having him show you how to make hoods?
No. Nope, I have not.
No hesitation.
Rob Huber's done a couple hood making workshops for us here in the state, and I've gone to them, and I can make it happen. I mean, I know how to sew, but I don't want to. It does not appeal to me the way that it appeals. But he likes working with everything. He makes all of our lures. He makes all of our anklets or jesses. I mean, he likes working with leather. It just makes sense for him to want to do it. And if he wants to do it, who am I to stop him?
So what you're saying is I now need to just be patient and eventually meet and be in a relationship again eventually with someone that can make all my equipment for me. That would be great, actually.
It's helpful. Until you get a Cooper's Hawk who doesn't fit any hood that you put on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time I checked, I don't really think that they made like 0.25 or 0.75 size, blocks or whatever.
There are some out there, but it's not when you get up into the bigger sizes. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, and real quick too, I'll ask you the same question that I like to ask a lot of hood makers that I've done episodes with and stuff. I mean, how many hoods did you feel like you had to make?
I haven't made that many
before you.
I'm not there yet. No. Tucker told me, he's like, make at least 50 before you judge your own work.
50 always seems to be the magic number. Yeah.
And I probably am close to that, if not beyond it. I haven't kept track in a while, but the thing people might not think about is, I've been doing this for a year, but I've only had the pleasure of petting a few of these hoods on birds' heads. So I don't, that's the ultimate judge of what your hood is how it fits. And so, I'm using established patterns and I'm using established blocks and techniques, but there's still more to it than that. And a lot of these hood makers are mildly refining existing patterns and stuff. And I dabble in that. I understand what they're doing, but I don't have anything to base my changes on. So until I get more time, which is why I've built a massive pile of Merlin hoods. And this year, I'm going to go out and put them on as many Merlins as I can and send them out to other people who are trapping Merlins and flying them. And I want to see how they hold up. A lightweight hood is great, but they don't last as long. That thinner leather, it gives out over time. And so there's a lot I've got to learn about my own craft before I feel accomplished. But I look forward to the journey.
Yeah. Fair enough. So not even necessarily hoods, but any particular piece of equipment, no interest whatsoever, not, no interest on your end in learning that side of the whole falconry experience, nothing at all. There's
interest. I mean, I wanted to learn to braid for a while, but we spent one afternoon doing it and I was about ready to kill somebody at the end of that. You get to the end of that and try to tie that knot on the end of it and it'll test you. But I don't have the time. I have too many things going on in my life to commit to learning a new craft.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I understand. That's why I'm more than happy to shell out money to other people to get things done. This whole endeavor here is the majority of if you're looking at the pie chart, the huge piece or whatever, this is my deal right here, so call me whatever you want. I don't care. I will happily give somebody else money to make my equipment for me. Sure. I don't care.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to that end, is there anything else in particular that you guys want to talk about or mention at all before we get into story time a little bit and piece of advice? Or is there anything that you guys elsewise have done with other than just volunteer for the state club and stuff or anything like that? Or that you, I mean, have you been on served on the NAFA board or NAFA or the Oklahoma Falconers Association, any positions or anything like that?
I have, yeah. I think I've done everything but secretary for the state club. I've done treasurer a few times. We actually did the math the other day. We were trying to motivate new volunteers at our last event. And I was like, I think I've been in this club for 24 years and 15 of those have been on the board. And, there's a couple of ways you could look at that. I think it's too much, not just from a personal perspective, but there needs to be new opinions and insight. And we're a small club, and volunteerism isn't easy to get these days. But as far as NAFA is concerned, I've served as a land access coordinator for 2 NAFA meets. The last one was very unsuccessful on my part, and Southwest Kansas was a huge struggle. There's a lot of reasons why that I could elaborate on, but it was probably my toughest position I've ever taken as a volunteer. And then this year, Jess and I are joint raffle coordinators for the NAFA meet here in Enid. So, and I don't know if this will land out there before then, but we have put a tremendous amount of effort into this. We've done a lot of state raffles, and this is our first national raffle. Excuse me. But just like we've already contacted like 125 individuals about donations. Like, it's a lot of work. And I was doing the math on it, and, you know, you factor in a full-time job, your own falconry. We keep a literal zoo of animals. We've got 2 children. There's a lot, and we're trying to balance that in the meantime. So, you know, just if I want to encourage people to volunteer and be part of things, but don't begrudge the people that do it. It's a thankless job, and I see so much, you know, here and there where people are judging the way things transpire and how well it goes. And it's like, man, get out there and put your hat in the ring. Get in there and get it done. You can do it too. But it's just be nice to the people that do it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And to that end, yeah, I don't, well, for lack of better ways to put it, I don't really necessarily care if people like bitch about how a certain way things go, but you also have to be willing then to throw your name in the hat to, you know, if you got gripes, then go make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, try to make it better yourself. Don't be one of those people that, you know, will just gripe and moan about something, but then aren't willing to try and throw in your time to possibly make it better yourself. If you've got a better way of doing it, by all means.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's the way I look at it anyway. So,
and Jess, before we go too much further, she breeds snakes, like a lot of snakes. And she's actually fairly well known for that. She's actually sold to China this year.
Last year.
That is a world that, while I know lots of other people that are in that world too, has never remotely interested me to
really?
get. I've never been a huge snake person. That being said, I mean, I think it's cool. It's a cool endeavor, and it is weird. You know, there's a lot of people in the herp world, especially the snake world, that do other things that they're not even known for the other things that they do, but they're known for breeding snakes, you know. So what species and what particular snakes are you breeding?
They're all corn snakes. They're nothing exciting. He likes to give me trouble for that. But we got together, and he had bred, I mean, he undercuts himself a little bit there. Him and his dad had gotten really big into breeding snakes back in like 2006, back when stuff actually was worth something. And when we got together, he had a few snakes, just random pets. And I decided that snakes were pretty cool. And so we got some ball pythons, and that was the dumbest thing we ever did. Those are living rocks, and I will never change my mind on that. But then he brought me home a corn snake from PetSmart, and that was in 2015.
Yeah.
And now it's 10 years later, and I'm selling snakes to China. But most of my snakes I get sold within the States, but I have to ship them. I don't do any shows, but people know who I am in the snake world. And people know me as the snake person.
Yeah.
Why corn snakes?
I don't know. They're more active. Ball pythons are, like I said, they're living rocks. They're boring. Boas are too big. I don't want to mess with that. I don't have the room for that. So, I don't know. Corn snake was just something we found at PetSmart, and I started diving into it and realizing how much there is out there, because you can get just about every color of corn snake, every pattern that you want. I mean, I think the list of morphs that are available in it is bordering on ball python level morphs. They're fun, they're active, they're easy to feed. Most of them aren't super picky. They're just an easygoing, active, simple snake.
Not going to get out of their enclosure and eat your child, that kind of thing.
I mean, they'll get out, but they're not going to eat anything. Usually we have to go find them stuck between a little gap under a bookshelf or...
Only if we leave a tub open or something accidentally. Busy life and you're always in there messing with stuff. And then it's inevitable. There's the whole family gathers when a snake tub gets left open and we search until we find it.
Fair enough. Been there, done that, as far as, just forgetting to put something back or whatever and it not ending well. Yeah. So I understand that, but that's cool though. I mean, and it is strange, how many, talked about it before, how many falconers are into music, art, that side of the brain, so to speak. It really is amazing just how many falconers are also involved in like the herp world and stuff too.
Yeah.
They're a lot alike. I mean, birds are very reptilian in the way that they think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, you've got another hobby or an endeavor that keeps you satisfied and happy and content and stressed and and whatever. I mean, all the power to you. So that's cool. Well, share, it doesn't necessarily even have to be together, but I mean, go ahead and share one of your favorite, hunting stories or memories of a bird, whatever, you want to share on that end of things. There's usually always one or two stories that come to mind, people that, have good, memorable hunting experience or whatever the case is. And then give your piece of advice and we can go get something to eat.
Okay. Well, it looks like she wants me to start.
You're going to have more stories than me.
Oh, man. I've forgotten more stories than I'll remember. I was trying to think about this on the way up here because I knew you were going to ask that. The one that came to mind was actually a hunting story. It was a trapping story. I have a good friend in Mustang, Shane Bullard. He was my apprentice years ago. He doesn't practice currently, but he's always down for a road trip. So Shane and I had headed out when I wanted to trap my first Merlin. And we just had it in our heads, like, it's going to be like trapping prairie falcons. We're going to get out in the wide open. We're going to find this random Merlin sitting on a pole. We're going to trap it. And we had nets with us, Dogaza nets. And we spent like all day trapping. And we come to this like little feedlot, a little private feedlot. And in the corner of this open area is this elm tree. And as we're driving by, and it's in full foliage, this is early in the year. And I was like, man, I swear I saw a bird in that tree. Like, I know I saw a bird. And we pulled in there, and for like 10 minutes, we stare at this tree with binoculars. And I'm just like, I can't see it. And I said, well, screw it. We're out here with traps. Let's just set a trap. And I didn't even get back in the truck. And this Merlin comes in and gets caught in my net. It just out of nowhere, it just comes out of this tree. And it was just this turning point for me, like this pivoting point where I'd spent all my falconry career doing something totally different than this. And I was wanting to shift gears. And that first taste of success and getting what I was out chasing, and it was a hag, like destroyed my net. It was a poorly made net, and it was everything went wrong, but I got it in hand, and it wasn't like your typical trapping situation. And, within the next 2 weeks, I had trapped like 5-6 other Merlins in good style, but that just willingness to just stop and try something and have it be successful. And it just, for whatever reason, that moment has always stuck out in my head. And it's not like anything crazy or captivating to most people, but for me, it was so important that I was finally successful in doing what I had been working on for 2 or 3 years, preparing myself for. So I don't know, that's one of my favorite stories.
I don't have many stories. We realized that on the way up, and most of them overlap his. I've got all the normal stuff. Like, we had a Cooper's hawk whose telemetry shorted out because it landed on an electrical plant. I've had to leave birds out overnight, but experience-wise, it has to go to trapping family bird Cooper's hawks in Albuquerque with Brian Millsap. If you ever get an opportunity to do that, you have to go. It is an insanely different world out there, but we went out on a Thursday night. Our intent was to trap Friday, maybe Saturday, and come home Sunday morning. And instead, we spent 2 days driving around to all these parks and all these Cooper hawks, and we were playing sounds for them, and they all come in for family sounds. and then nothing wanted to be trapped, and we wore ourselves out. And then Sunday afternoon, we were going to leave at like 11 o'clock because a 7-hour drive home. Instead, at 1 o'clock, we spent an hour watching a Cooper's hawk take a nap, laying on the ground beside the trap. And it was the first Cooper's hawk that had come back down to a trap since Thursday evening. Mm-hmm. And so we stuck it out. And I mean, she ended up getting caught, but it was a literal hour of standing in Albuquerque heat, sweating, hoping that this bird would just decide she was going to wake up. And she eventually did. And then we drove the 7 hours back with her on the fist because she wouldn't sit on a perch. And I mean, it's a super good plug for Cooper's hawks, guys, but it was the most experience I would say I've had with anything unique when it comes to falconry. But it was fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd go do it again.
Oh yeah, and Brian's so accommodating. He's just a wealth of knowledge on Cooper's hawks and falconry in general. But we drive around like in these downtown areas, and you're like, what are we doing here? We're just standing on a sidewalk. And he would play this little, Cooper's hawk sound through a speaker, and it was like a little pack of wolves. Like you'd hear him start screaming from a distance, and they would just cruise in at like head level, fly right over you, just landing all around you. But like they're not hungry. They're just toying with any trap they see with the bait. Like there's no drive there, and it was just so crazy. I bet we interacted with 75, 100 Cooper's hawks in just a few days. It was unreal, the concentration of birds in that area. I loved it. Brian's a great guy.
It's always nice being able to kind of get those different experiences like that with, especially whenever you haven't experienced them before, seeing how the different dynamics of trapping and different things like that work. Because I remember the first time my buddies took me Sharpie nest hunting, and stuff, and watching that whole process, having playing the calls and stuff and all that. And I'm like, this is really how this works, like that kind of thing. Just in seeing just the kind of the intricacies of how all that. I mean, I'm like, this takes this much work and this much effort and whatever. And it would be interesting to see the difference between doing that in like the middle of a woods in the middle of nowhere, as opposed to say in the middle of like a city and seeing all these birds just fly.
We were in somebody's driveway with that bird.
They'd come out and talk to us, and it was just the amount of Cooper's hawks that live in Albuquerque is something I'd heard about, and Brian has a wonderful presentation that he does on that, but until you go see it, it's a totally different thing.
It's hard to find a species that's adapted more to like the urban setting than that species, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anything else? What about experience together as far as actual hunting? Do you have one?
Oh, we have plenty. I hadn't prepared myself for that. Flying that first Merlin together was probably a big thing for me, because it was the first time that she and I had really spent much time in the field together. Her first red tail, she spent most of her time in the field alone with it. But just that, for one, it was our first Merlin. We had spent about an equal amount of time working with it up to that point. And I guess just having that first true time in the field with my wife as joint falconers was pretty rewarding as far as I was concerned. She might have found it more stressful, but
no, I enjoyed that. The stuff that I enjoy with us together, though, is stuff that you don't enjoy as much. Like watching that coop chase that bird up the fence and hope it didn't go into the barbed wire yard of a company that we didn't know the owner of. That was fun, but I don't think you had as much fun with that.
Yeah, I get stressed out when I'm near town. Blood pressure goes up. Give me the open country.
But it was probably one of the coolest. I take that back. The coolest flight that we had was in an industrial parking lot. And I had a coop that chased a starling underneath about 10 cars just back. And it probably lasted 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I enjoy watching accipiters fly. And seeing them actually do accipiter things is a lot of fun. Like just going and catching a starling isn't that great, but watching them dive and weave and everything like that, that's fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Well, awesome. Well, and go ahead and if you each want to give just a piece of advice that you maybe want to leave to current and prospective, generations of falconers or whatever, just, we'll finish on that and then go get something to eat.
Stay off Facebook. If you need advice, don't ask Facebook for it. And don't get on there and tell everybody that your sponsor said one thing and you're going to do something different.
Sound advice. I would say be open to the idea that just because something works for you in an area or for someone else in a certain area or certain situation doesn't mean it works for everybody. There's a lot of details in successful falconry that have to be considered, and I try not to make too many hard and fast rules about what's right and what's wrong. Just be open to the idea that you might not know everything and that certain things work better in certain places for certain reasons. Just keep an open mind. If you're not learning, you're doing it wrong.
Very good. Very good. Well, awesome. Cool. Well, where are you guys going to take me for lunch?
Wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm starting to get hungry, so it's perfect timing. But
we'll get some of that Cuban food.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to go there. Yeah, it's delicious. But thanks again so much for coming down and having this conversation. And thank you again for the umpteenth time for the hood. And so far you're ahead in the Tucker Kimble sweepstakes because you've been the most recent person to give me a hood.
He's got to step his game up.
Yeah, he does. He's severely lagging behind at this point. But it's what he has a chance to catch back up. All he's got to do is send me another hood, and we'll just kind of just keep comparing and contrasting, and eventually somebody might win. We'll see.
We'll give it a few tries.
Yeah, well, sounds great. Well, thanks again, Chris and Jess. I appreciate you. Hopefully this hasn't been too terrible of an experience for you. Hopefully you had fun.
No, it's nice to be a part of something so cool in the falconry world. I love this thing. I think it's great. I listen to it all the time. Even outside of NAFA meets and the events that we have and getting to socialize with people, to actually get to sit down and listen to someone's story to me is just so much cooler because I can just take it in at my leisure. And you feel like now you almost have a connection to some of these people that outside you might never meet them at all, but if you do, you might be pressed for time. So I commend you for your efforts, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I appreciate it, man. Once again, it's that whole weird, I just simply say thank you. And, I'm glad that there's somebody else out there that actually likes what I do, and cool, great, awesome, appreciate it. On that note, let's go eat.
Okay.
That's good.
Appreciate you.